Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to National Action Network Saturday Action Rally. We're coming to you live on WLIB 1190 AM, streaming to you across the country on a number of platforms, including Facebook and nationalactionnetwork.net. We're live right here in the House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street. Call somebody, tell them the action is on the air, and tell them Happy New Year. It's 2022, and we kick off the year right here at the Saturday Action Rally. So you want to call somebody and tell them the action is on the air. The Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton is in the house and getting ready to come to you. We're so pleased to be with you on this Saturday, because if it's Saturday, this is where the action is. Our president and founder is the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton. Chairman of the board is Reverend Dr. W. Franklin Richardson, senior pastor of Grace Baptist Church in Mount Vernon, New York. I'm attorney Michael Hardy. Will be with you throughout the broadcast this morning. We are so pleased to have with us today for our inspirational word, Pastor Carl Warp, and hopefully I got that right. He is the pastor of the New York Live City of Refuge in Hempstead, New York, and we're going to be pleased to have him for our inspirational word today. Also, you know it's Saturday, so we're going to ask, what's on your mind? So we hit the new year, it's 2022, a lot happening across the world, and we're going to ask, what's on your mind? Derek Perkison, our New York field director and liaison, will be here to ask what's on your mind. So you should have something that you're ready to talk about, because again, it's a new year, but there's a lot going on. So share with us what's on your mind. Of course, our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson, is in the house, and the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton. So you want to call somebody, tell them Happy New Year. Tell them wake up, because the action is on the air, and the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton is in the house getting ready to come to you. But right now, with some New Year information, Dr. Alvin Ponder, the Vice President of New York City Chapter, is going to come and give us some updates.
Thank you, Attorney Hardy. Happy New Year's, brothers and sisters. Listeners and viewers, here's some information to keep you in the know. For 30 years, the National Action Network has championed the cause of social justice by promoting a modern civil rights agenda for all. With over 100 chapters across the country, it is a national movement for equality rooted in the spirit and tradition of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Despite the challenges of 2021, we remain committed to our activism and efforts to fight for the voiceless and push for change at the highest level possible, and we're still just getting started. Now, on our website, NAN has released a 2021 year-end review with graphics by Supreme Creative Agency this week, and here are some of the highlights from NAN this year. This is some highlights from the entire year. Sit back and listen. Reverend Al Sharpton delivered the eulogy for Andre Hill, the Black Ohio grandfather killed in a police-involved shooting 2 days before Christmas 2000. During his eulogy, Reverend Sharpton demanded the now fired officer who fatally shot Hill face criminal charges and repeated the refrain, quote, "No more excuses." Civil rights leaders call for Trump's removal under the 25th Amendment in the wake of the shocking violence at the U.S. Capitol instigated by President Donald J. Trump. Reverend Al Sharpton and the National Urban League President and CEO Mark H. Morial called upon Vice President Pence and cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment and remove the president from office immediately. On Monday, January 18, 2021, the National Action Network kicked off its annual King Day events, not only to celebrate Dr. King's legacy, but also to provide an opportunity to refocus on the work we must do to advance his dream. Because of the coronavirus pandemic, the annual Martin Luther King breakfast did not take place in Washington, D.C. NAN, however, held a virtual award celebration to honor the following stalwarts for their ongoing commitment to social justice. NAN's NYC and Miami chapters stood with the parents of Kenyon Harold Jr., the 14-year-old teenager who was attacked and falsely accused of stealing a cell phone from a woman. The woman, Maya Ponsetto, was eventually arrested and charged, but Arlo Hotels, where Kenyon was staying with his father when the attack occurred, did not do enough to resolve and de-escalate the situation. Attorney Ben Crump joined protesters in Miami to demand accountability. National Action Network praised the Biden administration for signing executive orders to advance racial equity and support for underserved communities. Reverend Al Sharpton and Reverend Dr. Calvin Butts kicked off the Choose Healthy Life Action Plan at the Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem with a testing event. The Choose Healthy Life Action Plan provided services included COVID-19 testing, vaccine awareness, and preventive health education through 50 churches across 5 cities in a historic partnership with United Way of New York City, Quest Diagnostics, and America's leading public health experts. National Action Network voiced support for the U.S. House Judiciary Subcommittee on the Constitution, Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, which held a public hearing on H.R. 40, the Commission to Study and Develop Reparations Proposals for African Americans Act. In the wake of COVID-19, the number of hate crimes directed against Asian Americans in New York and across the nation have steadily increased. Reverend Al Sharpton joined with Asian American advocates, including New York State Senator John Liu, to denounce the rise of hate crimes against Asian Americans in the wake of former President Trump's divisive and hateful rhetoric. As the nation celebrated the contributions of Asian Americans during Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, civil rights and labor leaders rallied to protest and denounce the ongoing spat of hate crimes against Asian Americans in New York City and across the nation. Reverend Al Sharpton and the National Action Network praised the passage of H.R. 1280, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act in the U.S. House of Representatives. The legislation is now headed to the U.S. Senate for debate and a vote. In March, U.S. Representative Hakeem Jeffries, the National Action Network, and Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, announced the reintroduction of the Eric Garner Excessive Use of Force Prevention Act, which criminalizes the chokehold and other strangulation tactics under federal civil rights law. If you're just tuning in, we're doing highlights from NAN over the past year, and I'm Alvin Ponder. The nation breathed a collective sigh of relief in April after a Minneapolis jury convicted Derek Chauvin, the former police officer of killing George Floyd a year earlier. The guilty verdict on all 3 counts was a major victory for civil rights and the National Action Network, who stood with the Floyd family from the very beginning. Tens of thousands of activists joined National Action Network's virtual convention in April, while NAN chapter leaders and a select group of panelists gathered at the Sheraton Hotel in New York City for the 4-day convening. This year's convention marked the 30th anniversary of the civil rights organization, founded in 1991 by Reverend Al Sharpton. More than a dozen cabinet officials joined President Joe Biden in addressing the convention. Other panels and plenary sessions focus on media coverage of communities of color, rebuilding amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, and the role of the Black intellectual in the 21st century. At the eulogy for Andrew Brown Jr., a 42-year-old Black man fatally shot by North Carolina sheriff's deputies, Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton called on law enforcement to release the body cam video of Mr. Brown's death, who was shot 5 times, including once to the back of his head at his Elizabeth City, North Carolina home back on April 21st. A judge has ordered that the full body cam not be released to the public. The parents of DeVale Gardner, the 1-year-old boy who was shot in the stomach last July after 2 men hopped out of an SUV and opened fire on the gathering in Brooklyn, appeared at the National Action Network Saturday Action Rally in Harlem. Police later announced charges against 2 men in the killing. One is accused of being the gunman and is also charged in connection with 2 other murders, and the other is accused of being the driver. Reverend Al Sharpton traveled to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where he met privately with President Joe Biden and survivors of the Tulsa Massacre, which uprooted the Greenwood section of the city 100 years ago. Black residents were killed and Black businesses were destroyed. Reverend Al Sharpton and civil rights leaders met with U.S. Senator Joe Manchin to press for support of the George Floyd Policing Act. National Action Network praised the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives for the passage of legislation that makes Juneteenth, that's June 19th, a federal holiday. The bipartisan legislation, which was sponsored by Representative Sheila Jackson Lee and Senator John Cronin, both of Texas, Juneteenth commemorates June 19, 1865, the day that slavery officially came to an end in America, when the last enslaved people in Galveston, Texas, received an order informing them that they were finally free, more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. Texas was the first state to recognize Juneteenth as a state holiday in 1980. Then D.C. followed, and 46 other states. NAN's Youth and College Director, Tyleek McMillan, joined President Biden and Vice President Harris at the White House to witness the signing of the Juneteenth bill into law as a federal holiday. More than 1,000 people gathered to listen to some of the nation's most prominent Black theologians, scholars, and preachers analyze Dr. William Augustus Jones's historic 1979 text, God in the Ghetto, under the editorship of his daughter and National Action Network board member, Jennifer Jones Austin. The book was re-released with essays about the book from a wide range of thought leaders, including Reverend Al Sharpton. Reverend Al Sharpton and the National Action Network condemned the United States Supreme Court's 6-3 decision on Brnovich versus Democratic National Committee. Reverend Al Sharpton and other civil rights leaders met with President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris at the White House. During the 2-hour West Wing meeting, the leaders pushed for measures to protect the constitutional right to vote and to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Reverend Al Sharpton traveled to Beebe, Arkansas to eulogize a white Arkansas teenager fatally shot by a sheriff's deputy. He used the tragic occasion to push for support across racial lines for efforts to reform police practices. As the nation paused to remember the life of the late Congressman John Lewis, Reverend Al Sharpton and others gathered at National Action Network's Harlem headquarters in July to push for legislation to protect voting rights. Politics Nation with Reverend Al Sharpton celebrated its 10-year anniversary in August. The show premieres on MSNBC each Sunday and Saturday from 5 to 6 Eastern Standard Time. Thousands of Americans converged on cities across the United States on August 28, 2021. the 58th anniversary of the historic 1963 March on Washington to urge Congress to take immediate action to protect the sacred right to vote. In Washington, D.C., Reverend Al Sharpton, the National Action Network, joined with Martin Luther King III and his wife, Andrea, and daughter, Yolanda, to lead over 50,000 activists throughout the streets of the nation's capital to send a clear message to legislators. National Action Network began working with state and local authorities and various community-based organizations to support the victims devastated by Hurricane Ida. Thousands along the Gulf Coast in the Northeast, New York and New Jersey in particular, suffered property damage and devastation as a result of Hurricane Ida. Tragically, the hurricane also caused death. Reverend Al Sharpton, members of Texas Democratic delegation, and community leaders held a press conference to decry the new state law that bans abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy and to oppose the continued assault on voting rights. Reverend Al Sharpton welcomed New York City Governor Kathy Hochul and Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin to the National Action Network's House of Justice in Harlem. NAN, Washington, D.C. Bureau Chief Ebony Riley joined with a coalition of black women and allies from 30 organizations to call on Congress to protect reproductive and voting rights. Reverend Al Sharpton and a delegation of religious and faith leaders traveled to Del Rio, Texas, to tour the encampment of Haitian refugees. The situation that so many of these refugees face is heartbreaking, and the delegation called for a fair asylum policy that does not discriminate based on race. NAN Youth Director Tyleek McMillan joined National Democratic National Chairman Jamie Harrison on National Voter Registration Day to urge individuals, including college students, to register and vote. And if you're just tuning in, we're doing a year in review of what's been going on here at NAN over the past year. Reverend Al Sharpton called for a street in Brooklyn, New York, named after Confederate Army leader Robert E. Lee, to be renamed in honor of the late United States General and former Secretary of State Colin Powell. Yes. Reverend Al Sharpton and National Action Network celebrated 30 years of activism at a ceremony at Carnegie Hall. Whoa, what a great day. With keynote speaker U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris. The event also served as the 67th birthday celebration for our Reverend Sharpton. The event titled, quote, "A Celebration Above All," brought out a who's who from New York's political circle, national leaders and entertainers giving praise to NAN for 3 decades of fighting injustices. As the trial kicked off for the men accused of murdering Ahmaud Arbery, Reverend Al Sharpton, at the invitation of Ahmaud Arbery's parents, traveled to Brunswick, Georgia to attend the trial. In an effort to bar black pastors from the courtroom, Reverend Sharpton led a delegation of thousands of faith leaders to march and stand in front of the courthouse in support of the family, and was present when the judge handed down a guilty verdict on all counts for the men involved in the death of Ahmaud Arbery. Reverend Al Sharpton was at the White House for the signing of the bipartisan infrastructure bill. He applauded the Biden administration for the passage of this historic legislation, but added that voting rights legislation must still be a top priority. National Action Network and Reverend Al Sharpton announced the promotion of Ebony C. Riley to Senior Vice President of Policy and Strategic Partnerships for National Action Network's Washington, D.C. Bureau. Ms. Riley is the highest-ranking woman in NAN's history. NAN hosted its annual holiday meal and toy distribution this holiday season, both on Thanksgiving and Christmas. The annual tradition was taken on a sense of urgency in the wake of COVID-19 and the devastating impact that the pandemic has had on families. Reverend Al Sharpton and the National Action Network praised the jury's decision to hold former police officer Kim Potter responsible for the killing earlier this year of 20-year-old Dante Wright in Minnesota. Reverend Al Sharpton, the National Action Network, praised President Joe Biden, who said that he supports making an exception to the Senate filibuster rules in order to pass sweeping voting rights legislation. Reverend Sharpton and Martin Luther King III joined more than 800 faith leaders in penning a letter to President Biden urging him and Senate Democrats to act quickly to pass voting rights legislation. National Action Network congratulates former Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams on being sworn in today as the second black mayor in the history of New York City, our 110th mayor. Eric Adams has been a longtime supporter of NAN and was among the original group who helped to incorporate the organization in 1991. Mayor Adams joined us over the holiday season at NAN for both Thanksgiving and Christmas to help serve the community and those in need. In addition to some of the highlights we just mentioned, a number of key initiatives also took place at the chapter level across the country. Additionally, NAN has regional offices in the following cities: Atlanta, Washington, D.C., Detroit, Los Angeles, Jacksonville, Sacramento, and Staten Island, New York. Over the past year, NAN has hosted Legal Night under the direction of Executive Vice President and General Counsel Michael A. Harding. Ashley G. Sharpton has spearheaded NAN's Youth Huddle and NAN's Newark Tech World, led by Pastor Steffi Bartley, who is also the Northeast Regional Director for NAN, has witnessed continued growth, we're pleased to report. Supporting the elderly, the homeless, and those in need continues to be a staple of NAN's work. Whether it's holding leaders accountable, feeding those in need, fighting on behalf of victims of police brutality, or inspiring the next generation of civil rights advocates, National Action Network is ready for the next 30 years and beyond. To stay in the know and to get into action. With all that NAN has done this year, you may visit our website at www.nationalactionnetwork.net to engage with us and to activate with us in the fight for justice and equality for all who deserve it. Happy holidays. Reverend Al Sharpton, the National Action Network, would like to wish everyone a safe and peaceful Happy New Year. Welcome to all of you who have tuned in and joined us also via live stream at www.nationalactionnetwork.net and also live on Facebook at National Action Network. If this is your first time joining us, or if you are not a member of NAN, we welcome you to NAN and invite you to join us and get into the action today. For more information and to join, again, you may visit www.nationalactionnetwork.net or call 877-626-4651. Again, 877-626-4651, or just text the word NAN, N-A-N, to 59769. Welcome.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ponder, for reporting on another great year of National Action Network's work as it concluded its 30th year of action. Hey, we want to remind you that the NAN Youth Huddle will not meet on Monday, this Monday coming, Monday the 3rd. The NAN Youth Huddle will continue in-person meetings on Monday, January 10th, 2022, live at the House of Justice Auditorium beginning at 6 p.m. Spread the word and get into the action with our youngest and brightest dreamers of today and leaders of tomorrow. For more information on the Youth Huddle experience, you can reach us at 877-626-4651 or email nanyouthhuddle@gmail.com. Also want to remind you to tune in Saturday and Sunday, 5 p.m., MSNBC's Politics Nation with Reverend Al Sharpton. That's every Saturday and Sunday at 5 p.m. on MSNBC. But right now, What's on your mind? That's right. You should be thinking about something, and Derek Perkison, our New York coordinator, is here to ask, what's on your mind?
Thank you, Attorney Hardy. Good morning, National Action Network. Happy New Year 2022. And we want to know what's on your mind. Welcome to another segment where you, the people, have the opportunity to interact with the National Action Network 24 hours a day by sharing your thoughts, your ideas, and your viewpoints via email at whatsonyourmind@nationalactionnetwork.net. That's what's on your mind at nationalactionnetwork.net. Or you can call the 877-627-4651. 627-4651. 626-4751. 626-4751. We'll get it right. So, what's on your mind? Jay Spencer from Brooklyn, please share what's on your mind.
What's on my mind is releasing aging people from the prisons. We, the members of the Second Chance Committee under the leadership of Victor Pate, we would like Governor Kathy Hochul to grant clemencies immediately as the matter of public health. At the same time, we need her, Andrea S. Cousins, and Carl Hasty to pass the elder parole and fair and timely parole bills to provide meaningful pathways to release consideration. The parole board is supposed to be comprised of 17 people, and as of now, it's still only comprised of 12 people. We've got people in the prisons who are in their 80s, late 70s, 80s, who need to be out. They're not in there for major crimes, so we're asking anybody, you can contact Governor Hochul's office and ask her to please move this along as quickly as possible to release aging people from the prisoners.
Thank you, Ms. J. Spencer, Brooklyn. Release the aging prisoners. Thank you, little man. What's on your mind? Happy 2022.
Gino Costello Myers. I'm from Virginia, Richmond, and what's on my mind is a new chancellor for D5, and we get better technology.
Excellent, excellent. More technology for the schools, for the kids. And I will end it off by saying what's on my mind. We had a great 2021. We're going into a great 2022, and we all need to be thankful that we made it into the new year. And that's what's on my mind. Giving it back to you, Attorney Michael Hardy.
All right, thank you, Derek, for what's on your mind. And again, if you want to reach what's on your mind, you can always do so by calling 877-626-4651 or email what's on your mind at nationalactionnetwork.net. Right now, brothers and sisters, our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson.
Oh Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth. You set your glory above the heavens and the earth. When I think of all you made, the sun, the moon, and the stars, no praise is high enough
And that is our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson, accompanied by Chris Garland. Right now, brothers and sisters, we are in the new year, and no better way to then bring us in the house. In the house is about the work of the committees here at National Action Network, and none are more fun or interesting than our arts and culture. So we want to welcome the leader of arts and culture, Arnold Penix.
Good morning, NAN family. This is Arnold Penix, a.k.a. A. Gregory Harris, a.k.a. Zodiac Number Runner, a.k.a. the Big Black Man. Black people, it's 2022. Time to do you. Habarigani, Imani. The seventh principle of Kwanzaa is today, January 1st, 2022, which means faith. NAN Arts and Culture Committee keeps the faith that the arts will continue to shine a light on it. Hey, shine a light on it. Hey, even in the midst of a global pandemic. Now it's time for the KW, the ANZ, the A to the A we need. The seven principles to live by to help us pull us out of the wilderness, as Reverend Sharpton says, starts the day after Christmas on December 26th with Umoja, unity. Day 2, Kujichagulia, self-determination. Day 3, Ujamaa, collective work and responsibility. Day 4, Ujamaa, cooperative economics. Day 5, Nia, purpose. Day 6, which is Kuumba, creativity. And today, Day 7, Imani, faith. Yeah, you can clap it up for that. Now, as I celebrate my 12th year as a NAN member, I am as committed as ever, to bringing the arts use the arts as a tool for social justice reform. Penix bring the drama to the march. No justice, no peace, as Reverend Sharpton would say. Being appointed to the position by Reverend Sharpton is to bring the drama to NAN by way of his mentor, Reverend Jesse Jackson, who discovered me and brought me to New York as his comedy writer for NBC Saturday Night Live, who he hosted the appearance on Saturday Night Live. It is a tremendous responsibility that I don't take for granted, not even a little bit. I joined NAN as an award-winning playwright and New York City radio personality, Jeff Fox, Numerology Tuesdays on Kiss FM, the Saturday night hookup with Dougie Fresh on the show, WBLS, and the NAN Arts and Culture Report right here in the NAN Rally at 11 WLIB 1190. Now, Reverend Jackson's played a major role but my play, The Peacemaker, a docudrama on the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., was my main reason for becoming a NAN member. I felt I could help realize the dream and the king, and use his king's principles for being the best at whatever your life purpose happens to be. And as a result of living my purpose, NAN Got Talent is now in its 12th year with a global YouTube channel showcasing performing activists worldwide with tributes to James Brown, Aretha Franklin, and Stevie Wonder, just to name a few. Yes. I am also very committed to the creation of the Young Activist Training Program through the Breadbasket Society at the NAN Youth Huddle. Training young people in public speaking and oral interpretation is a tribute to Reverend Sharpton's work as youth director for Operation Breadbasket and the 30th anniversary celebration of NAN. Now, what's in the basket? Rise Up by Reverend Sharpton. Witness to Grace by W. Franklin Richardson, board chairman of NAN, and The Peacemaker by the Drama Man, as I am called. Now, as part of the 2021 NAN Arts and Culture Year in Review, the NAN performing activists also provided talent to all New York City chapter committees upon request for various events throughout the calendar year of 2021. Our events included NAN Got Talent, Pandemic Talent Showcase in the State Park. Black folks must vote. Bus to the March on Voting Rights in Washington, D.C. The Pan-Nationalist Nat Turner Tour, Garvey Parade with Yar Santawa as Marcus Garvey in the parade. Good Day Harlem, hosted by the Big Black Man. Say It Loud, the James Brown Review, Kwanzaa celebration with the Political Action Committee, that happens today, right after the rally, and the annual Juneteenth celebration hosted by Derek Perkison. To gain more information and to join NAN Arts and Culture team, visit our official website at blk2thefuture.com. That's BLK, the number 2, thefuture.com. In NAN Arts news, HBCUs across the country, that's historical black colleges, are gearing up for the annual Peacemaker National Stage Reading Day held virtually on the King Day holiday. College actors participate each year as part of our NAN Performing Activists recruitment. You can also stream the Peacemaker movie produced by Peter Brown at Quad Recording Studios Performance Space on Broadway on the Garvey Studios channel. Now, and that's the NAN Arts and Culture Report, Year in Review. And I'm still blacker than black can be, blackety black, the big black man. and Happy New Year to everybody. That's what we say down south, Attorney Hardy. Everybody.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Penix. Right now, brothers and sisters, she is the head of our Political Action Committee. She's also a board member of National Action Network, and Dawn Jones is going to come with our official Kwanzaa report.
Thank you, Attorney Hardy. Abaragani. Greetings, House of Justice. Happy Kwanzaa and New Year's. My name is Dawn L. Jones, Chairwoman of the National Action Network Political Action Committee. In loving memory of Malaka Shabazz, her twin sister is here, Malak Shabazz. In celebration of Kwanzaa, join the National Action Network New York City Chapter Education and Political Action Committees, celebrating the final day of Kwanzaa, Amani, faith, celebrate our rich community, culture, and family right here at the House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street, in the village of Harlem, on Emancipation Day, Saturday, January 1st, 2022, at 12 noon. Our presenter is Nana Camille Yarborough. Please bring fruits and or nuts to share. Good morning, brothers and sisters in the movement. Abaragani. It is my great honor and pleasure for me to introduce our presenter on today, Nana Camille Yarborough. She's going to present to us the principle of the day, Amani Faith. Please welcome Camille Yarborough to the podium. She will be here after the rally to present the Nguzo Sabas of Kwanzaa, the remaining principles.
Go straight to the mic. Brother said go straight to the mic. I'm so happy to be here with you. It's been a while. So much has happened. But you're looking good. And you're sounding good. And you have that spirit. Being part of this organization is so important because part of the name, it says Action Network. And we as a people have been active. And when we're here, we're reminded of that's who we are and that's what we do. We are a visionary people. No one else could have come through what we have come through and still be not crazy. Maybe some of us are a little bit, but that's understood. You understand? Under these circumstances. When you have vision, you can see beyond the pain. You can see beyond the threats and the ignorance and the bullying and the lying and the greed. And we have had to do that. Since childhood, all of us, it was all around us, that attitude, that meanness. But we came through it. And that visionary energy takes us to the last principle of Kwanzaa, faith. Yes. This is going to be short. Later on, we're going to do a full Kwanzaa presentation with the table and the candles and all. But you might ask, why Kwanzaa? Why faith? There's been so much to take us apart. From today back to that tragic start that brought us here in pain and fear, far away from all we love so dearly. But every time we were taken apart, we kept the faith. We found a way to make a new start. And so again and again, we continue to love each other. We continue to struggle with each other. Slavery didn't stop us. All of the prejudice didn't stop us. What they've been doing to our people in the street, especially our men in the street, but women too. The death didn't stop us because we are visionary and we have that faith which will take us through anything. That's where we're going. This new year has already started to show us a way that's not going to be good. Are we ready for it? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What you say? You ready for it? All right. As the kids say, all right. We are ready for it. Whatever is coming. So it's Kwanzaa time. It's that time of year when we come together from far and near to be as one again as family. To be as one again as family, that's the gift of Kwanzaa. And the Kwanzaa started, I said later on we're going to do a full take on Kwanzaa, but I just wanted to say a few words. Mainly what I wanted to tell you was that I love you so much, that you are a tremendous, extraordinary people. And the whole world knows that, you know. They know it. And by what we do, what we're doing in America right now, how we're fighting back those people who want to change everything and take it back. Don't tell the history. What are they afraid of? Telling the truth about history. But there's one thing I'm going to end it now, but I want to say, please, you great people, you extraordinary people. And there's something I used to do when I was talking. I would say, put your arms around yourself. I had a great-grandmother who was enslaved and she became free, but she was fighting all the time. And my father wrote about her. And he said they would call her to speak after enslavement. And what she would say, this woman who grew to be 115 years old, she said, we come through. You know what that means? We survived it all. And we have faith, and that's going to take us the rest of the year. Thank you.
Thank you, our dear sister, Camille Yarborough. Right now, brothers and sisters, once again, our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson.
Hold on, my brother, don't give up. Hold on, my sister, just look up. There is a master plan in store for you if you just make it through. God's gonna really blow your mind. He's gonna make it worth all of your time for all of the trouble you
Once again, our musical director, accompanied by Chris Garland. Right now, brothers and sisters, we are so pleased today to have with us for our inspirational word, Pastor Carl Warp. He's the pastor of the New York Live City of Refuge in Hempstead, New York. Let's give him a welcome.
Good morning, National Action Network. I bring you greetings in the only name that can save our souls and bring us liberty and freedom, the name of Jesus. First, I want to quickly acknowledge the set man who has helped us in every situation across the country, even extending in places across the world. And we celebrate his life even today. And Happy New Year to the Reverend Al Sharpton. Come on, let's celebrate him. To all of the respective leaders and president, vice president, God bless you, and everyone in your respective places. I only have a few minutes. I just want to leave a word of encouragement for us today. Look at somebody and tell them, I'm in position for transition. Come on, tell somebody else, I'm in position for transition. Tell them, you don't know the hell I went through to get to this point. The Bible says in Isaiah chapter 43, verse 18 to 19, remember ye not the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. Look at somebody and tell them a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Father, speak to us now in Jesus' name. I want to say I bring you greetings from my pastor and covering Bishop Noel Jones out of Los Angeles, California, a very dear friend of the Reverend Al Sharpton. The word remember, according to Dr. Webster, it means to call to mind. It means to be thought of. It means to hold in mind. But I believe right now, today, on the first day of January 2022, there's one thing I think the Holy Spirit is warning against today, and it is to make a memorial. In other words, the Spirit doesn't want us to enshrine something so important or so big or so grand that we can't move past it. Because you see, the truth of the matter is you end up worshiping whatever you enshrine. So the Spirit is saying, ask the question, shall ye not know it? In other words, it is very possible, my brothers and sisters, that I, God, would do something new, something better, something greater, something grander, much better than the verdict in Ahmaud Arbery's case, much better than what we have experienced with in Minnesota, more magnificent than you have ever seen or experienced before. But guess what? You can miss it because you're still worshiping the enshrined memory of your past. So when he says, remember not, he is saying, don't let enshrined memories of the past keep you from moving forward. He said, be thankful for the wonderful memories, but do not be a prisoner of the past. I don't care how good it is. I don't care how bad it is. You cannot afford to be a prisoner of the past. I was recently in Accra, Ghana, and went to the Cape Coast slave camps. And one interesting thing there is the tour guide, when he was giving us the tour, I asked asked him the question because he was so passionate about what he was teaching us about our history. And I said, how do you do this every day and not garner hate and resentment to some people who are not of the same persuasion, who may come in, because they said that some people come and they make mockery of what happened to us. And he said, I cannot afford to give them that freedom, that hold on my life, because the moment I allow them to feel that they can make a mockery of me, or I can begin to show resentment or hate, I'm giving them control over my life. My brothers and sisters, I came to let you know, we have endured some things in 2021. We have come through some things. We have even had to deal with issues that some of us didn't think we would ever see in a lifetime. But remember this, God has brought us to a place now that we have crossed over into 2022. And the fact that you have crossed over, God is saying it's time to take over. National Action Network, we didn't come to play. We have had enough. We have done enough. We have fought enough. And now we're ready to stand in our rightful position, because we've been in position all this time. And now that we have transitioned, we have now transitioned into our next. I came to let you know your next is going to be greater. I said your next is going to be bigger. Your next is going to be more powerful. No weapon that is formed against you in this season will ever prosper, because you are more than a conqueror. Is there anybody in this house that know that the God that you serve is still able to do exceedingly abundantly above all things? And that's why I can look at the enemy in the face and tell him, you should have killed us back when we were enslaved in Africa. You should have killed us when we were on the cornfields. You should have killed us back then. But the fact that you allowed us to survive, I'm coming to not just to cross over, but I'm coming to take over. I'm taking back my happiness. I'm taking back my joy. I'm taking back my victory. I'm taking back my family. I'm taking back everything that the enemy has stolen. I don't care what the enemy looks like, but I know that I am who God says that I am, and in him I live, in him I move, and I have my being. Give somebody a high five and tell them, I'm in position to transition. You can't stop this transition. This transition is bigger than you. This transition is more significant than you are. This transition got more power, because I'm not looking onto man, but I'm looking onto Jesus, the author and the finisher of my faith. Give somebody a high five and tell them one more time. Prophesy to your neighbor and tell him, you are in position to transition. Now take over. Come on, tell the person behind you, take over. Take over your community. Take over your neighborhood. Take over in the name of Jesus.
Pastor Carl Walk, New York Live, City of Refuge, Hempstead, New York, right now, the Change Ensemble. ensemble under the direction of Minister Tyrone Richardson, further accompanied by Chris Garland. Right now, brothers and sisters, if you're here, I want you to get on your feet. If you're at home, I want you to put your hands together for the president and founder of the National Action Network, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton.
No justice. No justice. No justice. No justice. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? 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 Fist bump the person next to you. Tell them you love them. In 1862, the President of the United States had promised that at midnight, January 1st, 1863, that those enslaved in the Confederate States would be free. That night, December 31st, 1862, watch night service started in Black America. They gathered, they sang, they prayed, they held hands, they cried, because they were waiting to see if Lincoln's word would become flesh. Reason why watch night service is different in our community and other communities is they are worshiping for a new year. But watch night was for us to watch to see if the Emancipation Proclamation was real. Because we knew that if we just got free, we didn't know where we was going. We didn't have property to go to. We didn't have rights anyone could respect. But if we could just get off the plantation, our change would come.
No change will come. No change. No change is gonna come. Do you believe it? No change. No change will come. No change. No change is gonna come. Oh, change will come. Oh, change will.
Since that time, we've suffered the end of Reconstruction. We suffered terrorism and lynchings, 100 years of Jim Crow,
And it's impossible to come out of that without some damage psychologically. But somehow we functioned anyhow. As Dr. Camille Yarborough said today, some of us a little crazy. But if you know what we've been through, normal is kind of difficult to even define. But before we give up on each other, know that this morning, that we stand here January the 1st, 2022, with a black mayor, a black woman police commissioner, black schools chancellor. And if we use what we got, if we learn how we got all this power, black woman gonna be the speaker of the city council. If we turn to each other rather than on each other, we are, as Rep. Wap told us this morning, positioned for a transition, and our change will come. National Action Network Change Ensemble, give them a big hand. Give them a big hand. Certainly we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning for the Saturday Action Rally, and for you that are here live at the House of Justice, 145th Street and Lenox Avenue in the village of Harlem, and for you that are listening live on 1190 WLIB AM in New York, and for you that are watching or listening to us on our platforms and various media platforms, we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning to give our report on where the action is. Give a hand to our presider, Attorney Michael Hardy. And, of course, give a hand to our Minister of Music, Minister Tyrone Richardson. And give our Chris, give the drummer some. Certainly we're happy to be with you on this New Year's Day. We're grateful to God. Let's give a hand out. Impact Television. His family is with us. We're grateful to God to see a new year. You should not take for granted some folks didn't make it. But whatever shape you in, you here. And you can straighten out what needs to be straightened out. So we're glad. Somebody asked me, y'all gonna have rally New Year's Day? I said, if I'm up, I'll be at the rally. I remember there was an old preacher that said that, he got up in age, was in his 80s. He called me one morning and he said, Reverend, I said, yeah. He said, my good friend Reverend so-and-so just passed. I said, yeah. He said, week before last, Dr. so-and-so died, and then that same week, so-and-so died. He said, I'm just laying here wondering when my time's going. He said, wait a minute, I might be in the wrong position. I better get up with all these folks. So if you glad you living, you better get up and show some sign. This is the last day of the 7 days of Kwanzaa. And we're honored to have one of the outstanding sheroes in our community, Dr. Camille Yarborough. Give her a big hand. Dr. Yarborough is going to do the whole Nguzo Saba for us after we finish the action rally, and she was been a part of our organization from the beginning at the first House of Justice. And we are honored to have her with us, and Don Jones for getting her and working with her. We're also deeply honored to have my little sister Malika Shabazz, one of the daughter of Malcolm X and Dr. Betty Shabazz. And Malika is near and dear to me and the family, and we are honoring the memory of Malak Shabazz, her twin sister. And let me tell you something, don't you ever forget. Oh, she's Malak. Y'all give me. Malika is the one. I did it reverse because they twins. That's right. You and I and her Libras. That's correct. But let me tell you something. Don't ever forget the sacrifice that this family made. Excuse me. Thank you. Don't ever forget the sacrifice this family made for our community. And I was honored to know her mother well. I was only 9 when her father was killed, but what Malcolm has done, and Dr. Betty Shabazz, don't forget Dr. Shabazz, what she's done. I will never forget, and I tell this story all the time, that when Dominique and Ashley became to get 3 and 4 years old, Dr. Shabazz called me. She was at Medgar College then, working at Medgar. And she called me to meet her at her office. And I went to the office, and she said, Sharpton? I said, yes. She said, how old are those girls now? I told her. She said, well, you know they're going to have to go to school in a year or 2. She said, I want you to bring them over to Johnson Preparatory School. It's a private Afrocentric school in Brooklyn. I said, private? What I'm going to do over there? She said, go over there because with your name and controversy you starting, them girls should not go to public school and have to deal with some of the stuff that my kids would know about, but others helped us. She said, you go over there. I've already paid for the first 2 years of their education. She said, people help me with my daughters, I'm going to help you. That's how she became their godmother. And I'll never forget what Dr. Betty Shabazz did for my family. And then, of course, I always tease about how she and I used to go to Wells Chicken and Waffle and have our diet waffles with the syrup. We tell ourselves it was diet anyway. But so I'm so happy to have her with us. On a sad note, I want to sadly announce that one of our dear members, one of our bedrock members, Brother Russell Grady from New Jersey, passed this week. And many of you know him. He was here every week, and Russell Grady passed. And many of you hear about me talk on my Sunday show on WBLS about the street doctor. He passed this week. So we're saddened that street doctor and Russell Grady, and we dedicate this broadcast to both of them. Let me congratulate, of course, Eric Adams, who was sworn in as mayor last night. When we started National Action Network, when we left Brooklyn and came to Harlem to PS 175, and Michael Hardy said we had to incorporate because you could not start and go forward without incorporation papers. One of the people on the incorporation papers was a black policeman from Brooklyn named Eric Adams. And he has been with us ever since, and he was here Thanksgiving Day giving out food. He was here on Christmas Day and has been faithful to us, and we congratulate him and look for the best in his administration. And I think that that is something we look forward to. Let me also say give a hand also. I want to give a special hand. He really came with a pointed message to Reverend Wap, who Pastor Wap did a great message from City of Refuge in Hempstead. Mentioned my friend Bishop Noel Jones, and but he did a message. I'm going to call Noel and tell him he come in here and tried to take the House of Justice from me this morning. Let me also say, when I see Camille, I think about things in Harlem. I'm going to say something that Hardy going to get on me later, but it don't matter. One of the reasons that I've been very disciplined about how we are dealing with our renting National Action Network space and renting the museum space if the developers come, is that I support that whatever is needed for the community must be done, or they should not be able to do it. But don't confuse, you got some folk run around here like I'm a developer or that I'm with the developers. We are leasing space, and they bought this corner from a black family who never told us they were selling it, because I could have gone to some of our supporters and tried to raise the money and buy it myself. So when we look up and the developers had bought the whole block, we negotiated that we did not want to be displaced. First law of gentrification is you displace folk. The only ones that could have suffered displacement was us, the chicken store, the mosque around the corner. We the victims, not the partners. I don't need no developers to give me no money. I make enough on my radio and TV show. I can help lend him a few if he needs some. So don't believe this foolishness. Well, then out there, Reverend, why ain't you out there leading the fight? Well, let me tell you what seeing Camille reminded. They were removing some vendors off 125th Street and evicting a brother with a record store called Shangi. Is that right? Sakula Shangi. I stood up against them evicting him, Freddie's clothing store. And when I stood up, made this whole message and stood up, all of the rah-rah crowd went down and did whatever. 3 or 4 months later, a guy burned the store down and killed himself. And the Giuliani administration tried to blame me. Put me under investigation, had a grand jury. You will not Freddie's me on this. And I tell you to beware of provocateurs. They're going to get in this and turn it into something it is not. Now, I said on radio, run and tell that. I support whatever the community do, but do not think I'm going for a setup the second time. Now, you talk about Red Mal, or you got the community meeting, I'm on radio, loud enough for the whole, everybody hear me. You can Google it up if you're too young. Freddie's Fight, they tried to put all of us away, blaming us from something where we stood up like we stand up here now saying, do not displace people and do not come in the community and run people out. We said that then. Y'all left us holding the bag. The boom boom crowd left us. Now, touch somebody next to you and say, Red Mouth, straighten that out. One of the things that we do as a habit, and Katrina Jefferson always talks about my morning thoughts that I do on Instagram. One of the things that we do as a habit every New Year's Day is we make New Year's resolutions. But the reason why, most of us make New Year's resolutions and we don't even keep them till February 1st. Get up, lie every year. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. The reason why most of us can't keep a resolution, which is why I like the way that WAP spoke this morning, is in order to keep a resolution, you must be resolved to be a different type of person. Without a resolve, you can't have a resolution. So you can't just jump up and talk about, I'm giving up sweets, and you haven't resolved that you're going to change your diet. You can't get up and say, I'm going to give up smoking if you haven't resolved that you're going to make that move. Most of us have not resolved of the change we need in life, or as he spoke, the position for the transition. You can't have a transition without reposition. And too many of us are trying to get to graduation without passing the test that you passed the grade to graduate with. We need to resolve who and what we are. That's why right now, as we deal with January 1st, Emancipation Day, one of the things that and I was so glad as Dr. Yabo was bringing it, one of the things that we've got to deal with is the last word of Nia is our spirituality. Because the fight for our empowerment and liberation was always a spiritual fight. We never had the money or the weapons that they had. What we had was a stronger moral, spiritual base that they could not stifle or inhibit. And once we took that out of the movement, they can overpower us because they have more weapons and more money. You ain't going to out-capitalize capitalists. You're not going to scare them with talking about your gun that you bought from them. I asked God the other day, well, brother, I appreciate what you do, but I'm for armed struggle. Okay, where you going to get the arms from? Show me where we got the zoo, boo-boo gun manufacturers. So you think they're going to sell you enough for you to fight them? And the bullets, too. And what grade did you graduate from? The power we had was our internal strength that even with the Middle Passage, even with millions of us dying in the Atlantic, even with the dehumanization, they couldn't break our spirit. What we're looking at right now, let me tell you the reason why this fight around a voting rights bill is so important is that the whole battle between the North and the South was a battle between states' rights and a union. The concept was that they would have one union that would govern the 50 states, or a decentralized form of government with states' rights. So Mississippi would decide for Mississippi what Mississippians would do, and Georgia for Georgians, and Floridians by Florida, on and on and on. It was based on that states were saying that we will decide whether we will have slavery or not. Slavery was a state-by-state proposition. And when they came and said they were entertaining freeing the slaves, Confederate states said they're going to secede from the Union. Union meaning the United States. When they tried to succeed, it broke out into the Civil War. And it was states' rights against the Union. They built up. Don't ever underestimate what they got now. That's why they got the Senate all tied up now. Democrats got 50 seats, but the Republicans got 50. Biden got more votes than any candidate for president in the history of the country, but the second one was Trump. Don't underestimate now how many folk is against you. Don't you ever forget that Trump got more votes than Kennedy or Johnson or Obama or Clinton. And that was just last year. So them folk ain't gone nowhere. You be talking about back in the day, them folk is dead. Them folk is alive. They voted last November. And they are now using states' rights to change the voting laws. 17 states have already changed voting laws. So when we are fighting for federal law, John Lewis Voting Act, freedom to vote, we are fighting that there be federal law that supersedes states' rights, which runs you right back into the Civil War. When they were fighting the Civil War, Lincoln was not a leader of, I'm for the black folks. Lincoln did not believe in black equality. Lincoln said that we are not equal, but we ought to treat them better. And Lincoln gradually was pressured into saying that you got to free the slaves in order to break the economic interests of the South. Northern industrialists wanted the Southern cabal that was running the agriculture, cotton and tobacco. The only way to break them was the source of their wealth was they had free labor. And if we could take their free labor, then we can break their economic hold. How do you break their free labor? Free the slaves. So we became a football between different interests. Then there were others fighting. There were some William Lloyd Garrisons and others in New England that were talking about the humanity of blacks and how could we talk about what we're talking about, all men are created equal, and treat these men like this, and they come back with they are not full men. They're 3/5 of a man. They had to dehumanize us to justify what they were doing. That's why, like I said, at our 30th anniversary, we had to come to the realization over time, that was part of why Malcolm was so important, of what was done to us was so dehumanizing that for generations we inherited that. Y'all know the story about a few years ago when New York Daily News found my great-grandfather was a slave in Ellenville, South Carolina, and I went down there. And it occurred to me when I was walking around that plantation where my great-grandfather was a slave, that every time I write my name, I am writing the name of the man that owned my great-grandfather. Sharpton ain't my name. Sharpton is the name of my owners. Smith ain't your name. Smith is who owns you. So that whole process, Lincoln and them said we got to bust up the agricultural monopoly they got in the South. Then the Confederate Army picked up steam and got as far north as Maryland and Virginia. The abolitionists who had an articulate, eloquent runaway slave named Frederick Douglass, started pressuring them to free the blacks in the South and let them join the Union Army. And Lincoln reluctantly said that I will free them and let them join the army. They would not even pay them what they paid whites. They were not able to integrate in the barracks. They could die, but they couldn't be treated equally. And they joined the Union Army and backed the Confederate Army up and won the Civil War. And then went and told children, you and I, when we were kids, how Lincoln freed the slaves, when in fact the slaves freed Lincoln. As they began seeing the freedom was about to happen, as they began to see the Union was going to win, Lincoln wrote what became known as the Emancipation Proclamation. And in the proclamation, he had tried a lot of things. He said he met with some black leaders. You know how they can convene black leaders and make them leaders that y'all didn't even know they was leading y'all till they told y'all. So turn on the news tonight, you're going to meet your leaders. He met with them and said, now, I tell you what, we can make a deal and bring all of y'all back to Liberia. Well, Lincoln and them had all kind of schemes. Let's send blacks back to Africa. Hello? He said, well, how are we going to get all these Africans to go to Africa? I don't know, just get them out of here. I'm just anything. And he signed the Emancipation Proclamation that as of January 1st, 1863, that those blacks in the Confederate States in the South would be free. And that's where, as I said earlier, that's where Watch Night come from. Now, I want y'all to get this. Lincoln did not free the blacks in the North. Emancipation Proclamation had nothing to do with blacks enslaved in New York, in New Jersey, in other places. That's why when we started National Action Network, and I said that we wanted to bring some of the things that I learned coming out of the King movement. I was born in Brooklyn, not Birmingham. And there was a mentality here that we had not dealt with. We still had a different form of enslaved mentality, different than the South. And we had to confront that. That's why Malcolm was important. Because slaves in the North were slaves with swagger. You weren't no more free, but you just had a little more cockiness about you. And you had to be organized and mobilized differently. So you got the Emancipation Proclamation. Northern blacks still enslaved. Southern blacks free, but free to do what? Well, we're going to give you 40 acres and a mule. Never got it. So you were free with no money, no economic base. Fought to get the right to vote. Had what they call Reconstruction. And in the Reconstruction period, we started organizing and building on our own. Built our own black churches. Built our own black colleges. Built our own black banks. Built our own businesses. Put 22 people in Congress. In the Reconstruction, we went from emancipation to a real transition. But the inbuilt racism, they could not tolerate that. Because you got to remember, that's why I told you they had to teach white supremacy to justify slavery. So if you teach people from the founding fathers all the way to 1862, if you teach people that they are superior if you teach people that I don't care how broke you are as a white man, you better than a black with money. They were trained this. They were given that kind of ingrained mentality. So as blacks in Reconstruction started prospering, they could not stand that. And there rose the Ku Klux Klan. There rose the White Citizens Council. That's where the lynchings start. Because my daddy and my granddaddy told me I'm better than you. How you a member of Congress? How you got a black bank? How you got Black Wall Street on Tulsa? And I'm a broke farmer with no crop. And by the turn of the century, 20th century, 1900, there were no black banks, no blacks in Congress. Had lynched people. They would come and go to church on Sunday and then come to the town square and lynch blacks. And the same folk that had just got through praising the Lord stood there and picnicked watching them lynch us. Just like we deal now with watching our population in the prisons 2 and 3 times the population in the community. So we then start a struggle for civil and human rights. And all the way through the 20th century, you had those that were fighting to get our rights, from A. Philip Randolph, W.B. Du Bois founded NAACP, all the way up to the movement in the 50s. At the same time, people trying to restore our pride and restore the damage done where we felt we were less than. Marcus Mosiah Garvey and others. At the same time, you needed the balance because you had the internal breakdown and the external lack of rights. That's why we need what we're going to do with this museum. You need to know what had to happen in the North. We had Randolph and Garvey in New York at the same time. Ain't nowhere in town showing you that story. We had Adam Clayton Powell, elected to the New York City Council in 1942, first black. Then went on in 44 to Congress. Where is the institution that talks about that? How do these kids know that story? First black woman, go to Congress, 1968, Shirley Chisholm from Bed-Stuy. There's a direct line from the struggle with Shirley Chisholm to Kamala Harris. But if you don't know who you are, you'll let others tell you who you are. And they'll hire your own children to wrap you into inferiority. I grew up at a time when the last poets was talking about revolution won't be televised. I grew up at a time when Nina Simone was talking about young, gifted, and black. I grew up at a time when James Brown was singing, "Say it loud, I'm black and proud." But my children grew up where you've now make every record calling us niggers, calling our women hoes. It is the psychological enslavement of people broken to not feel like who they are. That's why it took you over 30 years to get another black mayor. And you're going to try to beat him down. Watch, they're going to jump on Eric, things they never said to Giuliani or Bloomberg. That's why when they question these developers coming to Harlem, they rather jump on a Shopton who ain't doing nothing but renting because you scared to step up and jump on the master. I'm still on the radio. I'm talking to y'all. We've been trained to be conduits of self-hate. People mad. Heard one guy a few weeks ago, mad I got a TV show, but he ain't mad at Fox News. I get on TV and try to fight for our issues. Stand up for Ahmaud Arbery. Stand up for George Floyd. But you want me off the air. But they can call you names all night long on Fox. You don't open your mouth one time. Train self-hate. Whoa. What the preachers doing? Trying to restore your people, that's what they're doing. Trying to build up institutions. So here we are now. Emancipation Day 2021. I remember a few months ago when Joe Biden as president went to Tulsa. And some of us went out there as the first president to even deal with the Tulsa massacre. They killed scores of blacks because a black boy was accused of assaulting a white woman, stepping on her toe in the elevator. But they really killed them because they had wanted to level down those institutions. They resented black success. And here we are in 21, where what are they doing? They taking away your right to vote because what did they see when they looked at 8 years of Barack Obama and then they come back with the backlash of Donald Trump and then you come back answering the backlash of Trump with a Kamala Harris and a Stacey Abrams. You got black women standing up more eloquent than anybody in the country. They got to stop this. They got to target this and stop this. And I'm telling you that we need to stop tearing each other down and lift each other up because they are trying to end a second Reconstruction. That's why people come to me and say, Reverend Mal, you hear what so-and-so said about you? No, I didn't hear it, but I probably did it. Don't worry about it. Let's keep focused. Yeah, but he don't like you. Well, sometime I get up. I ain't crazy about myself. Let's keep focused. Let us stop this madness of pitting each other against each other. We are not each other's enemies. We can be each other's help if we get out of the way and keep our eye on the prize. That's why it runs right back to what the seventh principle of Nguza Saba. Faith. Our spiritual power. The only way that people on plantations that had to work from sun up to sundown could have made it through all of that is they had faith. The only way that they could have even survived watching the brutality of the Atlantic slave trade is to have faith. I was telling Attorney Hardy in the office this week about I was blessed to have gone to Goree Island both in Senegal and in Ghana, because both ports have what they call the door of no return. And Reverend Walker, when I stood there, I couldn't describe the feeling. In 94 was the first time I went. In Dakar, Senegal, I couldn't describe the feeling of standing there and the guide tell you, this is the door of no return. When you went through this door, you knew you were either going to die in the Atlantic or make it to the so-called New World and be a slave. But you never coming back no more. And you look out at that ocean through the door of no return and think about how most of them never made it. Most of them were eaten up by sharks. Most of them had to face, you talk about a pandemic, wasn't nothing but pandemics coming across the Atlantic. So only those that had a strong enough faith and a strong enough resistant body made it. That's why, Dr. Camille Yarber, I know we can make it now because we're the children of the strongest Africans. The weak ones died in the Atlantic. Our great-grandparents were the ones that could take the pandemics and could take the abuse. You got to know who you are. And they could see things that wasn't apparent, but they believed if they held on, that somehow my children or my grandchildren or my great-grandchildren would make a way somehow. They had a rock faith. They had a faith that was unshakable. That you could take their name and break down their families, but they still had the regal bearing of the royalty of Africa. You couldn't break our spirit. That's why our faith, our reaching out, I don't care how you reach out. I don't care what denomination or religion. Reach out. I heard somebody say this week, I never thought about it this way. Those of us that are Christian, everybody walked that Jesus touched was healed. But there was one woman that he didn't reach out and touch. She ran through the crowd, and her faith told her she wasn't on the schedule that day. Nobody said the woman with the issue of blood is going to be there at 2:10. Nobody in the entourage thought she was much of nothing. Nobody was trying to help her when she was trying to get through the crowd. But she was determined because she had made a resolution. She had resolved, if I could just touch, I don't want him to talk to me. I don't need no appointment. I don't need a meeting. I don't want him to hear how I got the issue of blood. All I want is to touch the hem of his garment, and everything will be all right. Everyone that Jesus touched was healed, but the woman that reached out and touched him was made whole. The only one that was made whole is the one that reached out to him. I didn't get up this morning in the new year asking God to reach out to me. I'm reaching out to him. I want to be made whole. Sometime I'd let you go. Sometimes. If you're going to get whole, if you're going to be made whole, sometimes you're going to have to be by yourself. Bible talks about how God sets aside those that he used. Sometimes folk going to say, why you going to rallies? Because you set aside. Why you don't go to us hanging out doing silly things? Because you set aside. Why you don't talk to us about frivolous stuff? Set aside. Why are you studying rather than watching Housewives of the Ignorant? Because you set aside. So rather than ask yourself, is something wrong with you? God didn't set you aside because something was wrong with you. God set you aside because there's something right in you. And he needs you to be aside so he can build up your righteousness. And that's why you can run by yourself. Because everybody that ever made a difference had to walk a lonely path. And sooner or later, everybody else will follow suit. They were not popular. The road to destruction is wide, with many travelers. But the road to glory is a narrow road, traveling now and then. When Dr. King was killed, April 4th, 1968, the polls had him, where his unfavorable was higher than his favorable in the black community. Last time he came to Harlem, March of 68, he came to install Wyatt T. Walker's pastor Canaan Baptist Church. Some of our brothers told him, get out of town. We don't want that nonviolence. Threw eggs at his car. Malcolm, stalked by black folks. Oh, 2 or 3 people here today was in the Audubon Ballroom. They will tell you, wasn't millions of people coming to Malcolm. But 60 years later, heads of state, babies in universities all over the world know about Malcolm, know about Martin. You might have to walk alone, but God will take your lonely walk and turn the world upside down. That's why I encourage you today, we've got to fight this second Reconstruction era. We got to fight to preserve this right to vote. We got to fight to keep these police in line. But we got to use what we got. Right here in New York, as of this moment, got a black mayor, black woman gonna head the city council, black woman police chief, black superintendent of school. We got to use what we got to get what we want. We got 56 blacks in Congress, some of them good, some of them bad, but we gonna use them all to get what we want. Because if you think about it, we got here on the bows of ships. Now we sitting up vice president of the United States. They never intended for us to get where we at. We need to stop killing each other and raise each other up. If we use what we got, we can get what we want. That's why that spiritual power will make you forgive your brother. Even he might have been wrong, but forgive him anyhow. Even though there may have been some miscalculation, the blood that binds us is thicker than the waters that divide us. We've been through worse, we can get through this. Because somehow, I know that God will bless us if we bless each other. God is still on the throne. And we're the children of those that believed in it. It was so beautiful. Derek Ferguson, our faith was so strong that one day on a voyage across that mean, perilous Atlantic, storm rose up. Slave trader was bringing in a shipment of us, and the storm ripped the ship apart. He looked and knew he was going to die in the water. Caught the oars, let the chains go of his packaged slaves. But somehow the slaves kept humming some melody that they learned on the banks of West Africa. And they were humming and chanting, because we always chanted and hummed. This holiness dance we do in church come from Africa. We always had, people talk about, I don't shout in church. You were shouting in Africa before you got here. And when the winds calmed down and the storm went away. The slave trader couldn't believe how those slaves believed and never panicked through the storm, how they had grace under pressure. And he sat down and said, you know, I thought I knew a lot coming out of whatever manifestation of religion he had. He said, but these folk have a grace that I never saw. In fact, it's amazing grace. Amazing grace. How sweet the sound. Saved a wretch like me. I once was lost. Now I'm found. Blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. I didn't come unafflicted to 2021. I didn't come unbruised. I got scars on me. But through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. It was grace. Wasn't that I was that smart? It was grace. Wasn't that I was that slick? It was grace. It wasn't that I knew people in high places. It was grace that brought me safe this far. And grace, and grace, and grace will lead me on. Come on, 21. I'm ready for you, 21. His grace is efficient. His grace is sufficient. His grace is sufficient for me.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I was lost, but now I'm found. Trust blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toil, and snare, I have already come. Oh, what's great that brought me safe thus far. And grace will lead me praise God, praise God, praise God, praise God, praise God, praise God, praise God. Oh, praise God, praise God, praise God, praise God, praise God, praise God, praise God.
Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Sing it like you mean it. Sing it like you mean it. Everybody singing. Everybody sing. Everybody singing. I'm opening the doors of the movement. There may be someone here on this first Saturday in 2022 that have never joined National Action Network, that have never became a member. If you here and never joined, as we start a new year and we get all of our committees and divisions re-energized, never would there be a better time than for you to join than to join this morning, to be one of the first on the roll in 2022. If you're here and not a member, come on to me and let us sign you up this morning. Come on. Everybody singing. Come on. Everybody sing. Everybody singing. Sing it like you mean it. Sing it like you mean it. Sing it like you mean it. We want justice. We want justice. Come on. Everybody singing. One last time, y'all. One last time, y'all. Everybody singing. All right. See how Sam Roberts walked? That's why I was talking about the swagger. That's a northern thing. They don't walk like that down south. That's a Harlem swagger thing. He had a cane when he don't even need a cane to walk. That's swagger. We 9 years old with canes. Ain't nothing wrong with our legs. All right, I'm going to raise our offering and then taking our new member and dismiss and let Don Jones and Political Action come forward. We are going to, you that are going to remain, we're going to get out the way quickly because we want them to have the Kwanzaa celebration. We're honored that Camille Yarborough is here, Sister Shabazz, in memory of Sister Shabazz. And we do this every year. Don Jones, aside from being on the national board, has headed our political action committee here. In fact, the 50th anniversary of Kwanzaa was 2016, and Malana Karanga, the founder, came and did it here because of Don Jones. And all right, so let's raise our offering. And then we'll take in the member and dismiss and let Don and them come in, get started. You ain't got nowhere to go. It's raining anyhow. I want everybody to give to the best of their ability. I need about 10 people to start off the year with $100